but I'm not one of the people who gets to decide, which is why I want to talk to Senator Kit Bond of Missouri, a friend of the show, who's called for bipartisan cooperation so we can get a plan passed. Kit Bond, welcome to Mad Money, and thank you for trying to save the financial system.
Well, thank you very much, Jim. It's good to be back. And as you pointed out, the financial system is facing a stone age, so we have to act quickly. But I would agree with you. There must be accountability, transparency, and oversight. And I would agree also with your point that the taxpayers need to be protected. I represent the people on Main Street, and they want to make sure that the burden doesn't fall on them.
Well, I mean, you and I both agree, Stone Age. What did Hank Paulson say to Congress that they obviously got the Stone Age message?
I don't know, but he certainly convinced them because he scared the pants off of people, both Democrat and Republican, and they agree that we need to act quickly. But my point is, I hope we can act responsibly as well as quickly because we have to do something and we have to get it done. I hope we'll get it done this week and do it right.
Now, why did so many people focus today on whether there's certain executives who are making too much, rather than the idea that we could go to an automatic teller machine and not have it work, or the system would seize up? Why the focus on the punitive rather than the constructive?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily punitive, but I can tell you we have been overwhelmed with people saying, you know, they heard initially that the Fannie and Freddie executives were going to get taxpayer-funded golden parachutes. Now that's got to be out. But also, I think we need to make sure that people come into the system because you can't have a system that's so punitive that they won't get into it. I think that you know, we ought to address the executive compensation at a later date, but and see what can pass. But I really think that this thing ought to come with oversight. It ought to come with taxpayer taking a share of the banks that are going, or the institutions that are going to survive, and there needs to be greater oversight because a lot of this, the system was filled with greed and regulatory loopholes, and as you've pointed out in many occasions, those regulatory loopholes enabled a lot of the problem to get much worse.
Kit, do you think it's possible, as I do, and not just because I know you and I are both inveterate optimists, but if you take off a lot of the whole loans and the government redoes them, if we continue with this very slow rate of housing build, if we continue with the growth of our country, isn't it possible that the so-called bad mortgages become good mortgages and the taxpayer makes out well in this plan?
I think that's the hope. Mohammed El-Baradi, I think earlier this morning, was saying they might even make a profit. Don't count on a profit. But I think I heard Steve Forbes earlier today on CNBC saying that, you know, you could if you bought these mortgages at 60%, they're probably on the average worth at least that much. The value of housing isn't going to zero. That the mark-to-market accounting would has been evaluating them. So there has to be a finely drawn line. And regrettably, the Treasury doesn't have the personnel to accomplish that. So there's going to have to be a system to use appropriately incentivized and regulated private sector participation by the Treasury to make sure that it works.
Can you do one thing for me? When Bob Steele was here, he made a point. He goes, look, we're going to break down all our loans by zip code. They're going to break them down by FICO. They're going to break them down by where they were, when they were written. Could you please ask Commissioner Cox to give us the same disclosure for all banks that we're seeing? We got it from E-Trade. We got it from CIT. We're getting it from Wachovia. Without that disclosure, the government is going to get hoodwinked in the sale of these mortgages.
Well, that's one of the things that we need in transparency, because too many of these major firms have gotten into problems, had loans on their books that nobody could figure out. I read 300 and 400 people going into Bear Stearns, for example. They couldn't figure out what they had.
Right.
We all need to know, so we need to know that our money is safe.
Well, Senator Kit Bond, thank you for coming on the show. And you and I are in total agreement. This plan's got to pass and got to pass soon.
Got to do it, but we have to do it right. Thanks so much for your
Thank
leadership
you so much,
on it,
sir.
Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think we got a chance. You know, I said buy gold because I don't. Not everybody believes Kit Bond not everybody believes me. There are enough people who are trying to trap us in the details that if this gets delayed, again, it's going to be an ATM issue. It's going to be a mattress issue. It's going to be a freezing of the stock market and the bond market and the banks, and there's no reason for that to happen. You got to throw everything at this problem. This is 1932, and those who don't do enough will be doomed to be Hoover, not FDR. Stay with Cramer.